guys, welcome back to Chef Monica's Kitchen. Today I'm going full-on gastroanthropologist on you because that's what I do. In case you didn't know, I actually have a master's degree in cultural anthropology with an emphasis in food and culture, and that's how I got into cooking to begin with. So I totally geek out when it comes to like talking about the history of food. And the thing that I'm making today, which is pesto, has a very interesting history. So pesto originated in Genoa, which is, if you follow the boot of Italy, up here. Genoa is a coastal town, and it actually is the capital of the Liguria region of Italy. The thing about Italy that's so interesting is that every region is uniquely different. So you can go all over Italy and have almost an exclusive dining experience, which is so much fun if you've ever traveled to Italy. It's actually one of my favorite countries to travel to. I love Morocco. I have a special affinity for Paris in my heart, but as a country, Italy was probably my favorite country to visit. So the thing that's interesting about that area is it's very, it's a coastal town, so it's very cliffy. A lot of herbs grow, basil being one of them. And so they have to make use of those herbs. So pesto is one of those things that they do with it. The term pesto literally means to pound. That comes from this thing, mortar and pestle. So the original classic version of it, they would take the garlic with salt and then start pounding it in the mortar and pestle, and then slowly add their fresh basil. They would use pecorino romano instead of Parmesan, but most of us now use Parmesan cheese, and then olive oil. And it's this bright green, delicious thing. I, however, being the lazy person I am, I'm going the shoulder challenged person that I am.
Fair enough.
We're going to make a bigger batch of the pesto, and we're using a food processor or Ninja. I'm not using my Vitamix for this in case you guys have a Vitamix, because the Vitamix tends to make it too almost soupy, and I don't want it to be that texture. I want there to still be some texture to it. So we're using sweet basil or Genovese basil. It smells delicious. We got this from Coneflower Farm. It's the one with the big leaves like this. There are a multitude of different kinds of basil out there. There's Thai basil, there's like a purple basil, there's a whole bunch, lemon basil. They all have different flavors, and you can use all of them. They just will all change the different flavor of your pesto. Also, you can use different nuts. Classically, this was made with pine nuts, but my husband actually prefers almonds.
I love pine nuts, but we don't have any.
Well, I have.
And you were going to use.
I was going to use pistachios, which he doesn't like.
I don't like them. They're just not my favorite.
Okay, quit talking. Focus, Daniel-san. So, any nut you like, you can use. You can use walnuts. You can use pistachios. I've made this with macadamia nuts, which is amazing because macadamia nuts are really fatty. Pine nuts are very expensive though. So today we're going to use almonds in ours. And we're going to do probably about half a cup or so. And we're also going to do our Parmesan cheese, grated Parm, about half a cup of that as well. Many garlic cloves, because it should be garlicky. Lovely. Pinch of salt. Obviously you don't need that much salt because the Parmesan is salty. Fresh cracked pepper. And then we absolutely need to add some lemon juice to this, because if we don't, it will turn brown, and we want this to stay nice and green. I think 4 squirts. 4 squirts is roughly about 4 tablespoons. This is a large batch. There's probably 3 cups of basil in there. And then I'm going to start off with a little bit of olive oil, and then we'll slowly add more olive oil to get this to the consistency we want it to be. So let me get this on my handy dandy Ninja. Make sure I do this all right. Okay, hold that thought. We're going to start pulverizing this. So I think I added roughly about, I'm going to say half a cup of olive oil to that. I'm going to now quickly scrape this down. And I don't know if you can see in there, if you're tall enough. I'm barely tall enough, but holy cow, I could just eat this straight up right now. But we're just gonna go ahead and puree this a little bit further so that it's a little bit more emulsified and you got all those bits and chunks completely pureed together. Basil can be made ahead. You can keep it in the refrigerator if you want to. You You can also stick it in ice cubes and then pop them out individually, which is awesome because then you can have just little individual portions anytime you want them. The other thing is, I encourage you to try different herbs for pesto. Mint happens to be in the same family as basil, so you can make a mint pesto, which is delicious on lamb, and hazelnuts or walnuts would be really good with that. You can also make what they call pesto in French cuisine, which is basically the same thing, but it's made with parsley, Italian parsley. You could do it with cilantro, which would be more of a Middle Eastern flair. You could do a spinach and arugula pesto, which I like to do often, and throw that over pasta. So feel free to play with this. The idea is still the same. You can still use the nuts and the Parmesan cheese and then just use different kinds of herbs in there. Super versatile. Throw this on top of anything as a sauce. Use it on pasta. I like to mix it in eggs for omelets. And then we're going to do something with this later that's kind of fun. We're going to make a pesto twice baked potato, but you'll have to stay tuned for that. So if you have abundance of basil right now, make some pesto. You will love it. It's awesome. And now you know the history of pesto more than you ever wanted to know.